Hello everyone and welcome to yet again another Abyss and Imaginarium Theater review video. Today we're going to be talking about the 5.0 Abyss and IT, or the September 2024 Abyss and IT. I guess I'm not going to be changing the titling format of the videos to monthly instead of versions, but I will mention in the videos what month these cycles were in. I think that's good, right? I think that works pretty well. So, I'm going to preface this video though, especially the Abyss section of this video, with not exactly a rant, but something that is definitely it might cause trouble. Now, if you've played the new version, you of course know about the Night Soul state mechanic. It works very similar. It looks very similar to the Pneumousia mechanics we had in Fontaine, but compared to Pneumousia in Fontaine, where it kind of fell off completely from the first two patches, like no enemies were introduced that actually interacted with Pneumousia after the first two patches, and the only boss that really interacted with it is the Icewind suit, and mainly, I mean, the main time you would really want to use it is with Coppelius, because Coppelia wasn't really that of a problem, right? But with Coppelius and his three shields, that's where Pneumousia was pretty helpful. Although, the thing is that, I most likely, when Fontaine launched, I most likely mentioned that I'm really hesitant on the Pneumousia mechanic because it looks like it's going to introduce a pull for Fontaine characters or go fuck yourself. But thankfully, somehow, things were again controlled finely. Like, even with Coppelius being in the Abyss, his Cryo Shield was very easy to take down, so there wasn't really a need for Pneumousia. Even if, again, Coppelius had three shields, with how easy they were taken care of, again, things were okay. Pneumousia was helpful, but not necessary, which is good. And then again, enemies and Pneumousia interactions kind of disappeared. So it did not really matter. It felt very much like a mechanic they really wanted to use for pushing players to pull for characters, and then they saw that they just couldn't do it. And then comes Night Soul. If Pneumousia was the building blocks, Night Soul is the whole entire building, because Night Soul is the step further to the bullshit, where already there's enemies in the overworld and in the Abyss, where only if there's characters in the Night Soul state will they have reduced resistances. The new automaton enemies do that. They force you to have a Night Soul blessing character in order to lower the resistances. And I do follow leaks, and this will be slightly spoilery for 5.1. There is a new boss for Xylonen's mats that does seem to require you to have a character with that uses Night Soul. Now, it depends on also how they bring them to the Abyss, right? How they bring the boss to the Abyss. It could be, I mean, it's not exactly a Ruined Serpent thing where people have been comparing, like, the Ruined Serpent, right, is in the overworld and it needs a specific mechanic, but then in the Abyss it doesn't. But that's a gadget that it needs. Well, this is integrated into characters. So it looks, again, like things could prove really, really badly for the Abyss if Night Soul continues to be integrated onto enemies, and those enemies come into the Abyss and they really need the Night Soul bullshit, else you're fucked. Right. But another big problem, except for this need for Night Soul compared to, again, how Pneumousia worked, is power creep. I don't know if you've noticed, but the new Natlan characters are unfathomably powerful. Their numbers are unfathomably higher than even Fontaine units, and I'm not overreacting or anything here. They are seriously busted. If you've been following the beta, you know how much Xylonen does. You know how busted her kit is. And those constellations, my fucking goodness. Whereas before, you might see a 60% critted damage on C6, or maybe C4 on a character, and not necessarily on 4 stars. 5 stars had this as well, where their special attack would deal 60% extra crit damage or something. Or I don't know if there was, I think, a 300% crit damage thingy at some point. No, I think that's a little bit too much. Or it was, 60% crit damage on all of your hits, or 300% crit damage on one hit. Kinich gains 100% crit damage on his skill in C1. You can definitely see the power creep, and go check those constellations on Xylonen. Oh my goodness, the power creep is coming in. And the reason I mentioned this power creep is because, as well in the beta, it seems that the HP multiplier that enemies have in the Abyss, because if you don't know, in floors 11 and 12, enemies gain a 250% increased HP. That's why they're so tanky. They gain, aside from the extra levels that they get, they have a stats multiplier, especially for HP. The HP multiplier is going from 250% to 300 plus. I think lately, in the latest patch, it was 350%. Well, of course, with the power creep that these characters are bringing in, it's not gonna be a problem. But for everybody else, of course it is. So I am very fearful for the future of the Spiral Abyss because of the Night Soul bullshit and this power creep. It seems that competition has settled in and they want your money. I'm genuinely serious about this. Things have been really well with, power creep in Genshin. It's basically non-existent. There are powerful units, but the Abyss, while catered to them, they were never mandatory. But this is looking like it's starting. Again, Pneumosia was the building blocks, and they were not really used, right? But now the building has set, and Night Soul is here, and the power creep is here. So again, I hope MiHoYo pulls their head out of their asses and does not go bullshit on us. Because the Abyss will legitimately, if this whole multiplier on HP thing happens and they don't have enemies that, chunk their health down with some sort of mechanic that everybody can access instead of just Natlan characters, right, the Abyss might easily become a basically meta-only mode. Seriously. And this could even be possible. This could even bring problems to Imaginarium Theater. Imagine if there's a boss at the end of Imaginarium Theater and you don't have any Natlan characters to use to have the mechanic. Again, we will see. 5.1 is not here, right? Let's await for that to happen. Let's await that the HP multiplier buff does come into the servers, the live servers. But again, I am fearful for the Abyss, and I had to preface this video with this. It's not looking good. Now then, let's get fully into the Abyss. I have to mention that they are bringing in, I don't remember when, a floor 9 and 10 skip. Most likely if you complete them or you complete the Abyss with some stars or whatever, you're able to fully skip floor 9 and 10 and never do them. So do know that. But speaking of floors 9 and 10, they are changed. This is a new full nation patch, right? So we have a complete change of floors 9 and 10. Floor 9 is unfathomably simple and easy. Like, even if these floors are a pushover for experienced players or, players that have built their characters, these feel brain dead in a sense that I don't want to do them because of the simplicity. And because the floor skip will exist at some point, it doesn't mean that these floors need to be like that. Like, even in previous nations with floors 9 and 10, they weren't like this horrendous, honestly. Yes, you most likely have seen the jokes because of the enemies that exist in floor 9, but again, like, they felt so brain dead. In previous floors 9 and 10, they took a little bit of time, they were easy, and again, they took just a little bit of time, but they didn't feel like I really did not want to play these floors again, because that's what I felt here. So, again, because the skip will exist, does not mean that these floors should be like that. Might I remind you of pre-Inazuma, or even Inazuma floors 9 and 10, with full of cryo and the Electro Ring? Like, those were interesting floors for new players, and yeah, think of the new players. Because, like, again, these are... the previous floor 9s and 10s were really good at building you up to the experience of the Abyss. It wasn't exactly the experience of the Abyss that you'll get every cycle, but again, it was a good it set up a good pace and good difficulty curve. This doesn't. Anyway, floor 9, all of the first halves are the Sauruses from Natlan, the animals that you get their souls to use for platforming, and the second halves are all one ruin enemy. That's floor 9. All first halves, just some Saurians around you, and all the second halves, one ruin enemy. Like, see what I mean? Floor 10, all first halves are the same Sauruses plus some tribes people, and the second halves are one Eremite, with 10-3 being the new automaton enemy from Natlan that I mentioned before. And that's floor 9 and 10. Again, see what I mean? Like, what the fuck is this? At least before, even floor 10 had some interesting enemies. Like, do you remember when floor 10 had an Abyss Herald in it? Like, again, the difficulty curve and the let me teach you how to deal with enemies before you go to the actually difficult floors, you could feel that. And now you don't. So, I don't know what to say here. Unfathomably easy floor 9 and 10s, and there's not really any tips. Like, the enemies are fucking... Like, the Sauruses are literally pacifist, honestly. They don't even attack you. Their attacks never landed on me, man. Like, it's so dumb. It's like, yeah, what can I say? Let's just move on to floor 11. Like, these are despicable floor 9s and 10. Like, the fuck? Floor 11 then. 11-1 is a monolith defense that's pretty easy, honestly. You will see a giant list of enemies on the first half, and that is because there are 18 enemies in total on it. And I thought that it would be pretty difficult, judging from overworld experience, where the enemies in the monolith commissions completely ignore the player and just go for the monolith. But it wasn't that bad. Yes, in the footage behind me, in the background footage, you will see me using Venti and Kazaha, and they are the easy suggestion, as always with this type of chamber. But if you don't have access to them, even though you should have a Kazaha, because holy fuck, they rerun the motherfucker 3 patches, they rerun him 2 times in 3 patches, instead of, I don't know, rerunning fucking Risley 1 fucking time. Yes, I am pissed about that. So, maybe you should have a Kazaha with how many times he's had a rerun. But if you don't, make sure to have some good AoE attacks, and it shouldn't be that difficult. And the second half is 2 Ruin Guards that spawn one at a time. So they know that the first half can be problematic for some players, so they made this half absolutely brain dead, but it would be of course better if they were actually balanced halves rather than this. 11-2 is much the same without the monolith. A bunch of specters, followed by big mushrooms and then Yumkasauruses. Nothing of note, it's just a bunch of enemies, that much like again 11-1. And the second half might give some players trouble. It contains a Mirror Maiden and a Consecrated Beast. I said some players, again I mean new players or players that go into the Abyss without built characters. The Mirror Maiden is thick maiden, she has a lot of HP, and the Consecrated Beast is a Consecrated Beast. For, again, built characters, because it's floor 11, it won't deal a lot of damage, but again, for unbuilt stuff, or you might not know exactly what you're doing in the combat, you might get yourself some trouble. But 11-2 shouldn't be a problem. Again, bring a variety of elements in order to get rid of the specters for the first half, and then just be a bit careful with the second half. Again, just get some built characters in there, people. And then 11-3. 11-3's first half has 3 tribes people, also get used to that word, followed by lava avatars. These guys are new, and I call them new because the tribes people are literally just reskins of Eremites / treasure hoarders. They don't have any specific mechanics attached to them compared to the lava avatars, which are constantly affected by pyro, and they fucking love to go underground, although I do believe you can still damage them for a bit as the animation is playing, even if their HP bar is gone. You should be able to damage them a bit. So, use the constant pyro application to help you vaporize every freaking attack, or melt even, of course, and take these guys out. They're not really, they don't have any dangerous attacks. Again, just use the pyro affliction against them. And lastly, for floor 11, 11-3's second half contains a People of the Springs tribeswoman. She does appear as a local legend in the overworld, but she doesn't have a boss HP bar here. so I'm not really sure if she is a local legend version here, or honestly if she even has any differences with her normal version, because even though I fought the local legend 3 times in the overworld, I did not notice anything different. I'm pretty sure this is the local legend version because she summons a little cryo thingy, I think. But again, I could not tell you, because from the normal enemies and the local legend, which again I fought plenty of times, I did not notice a single difference, except for the voice line spam. You know which voice line? She spams it, she is annoying. But anyway, I don't think she poses any problems for any player, really. So, floor 11 in general is normal, I would say. Nothing super specific to counter, no bosses or local legends that need specific counters. So, honestly, pretty fine floor 11. And let's go to floor 12, because right off the bat we got something very important to discuss. Floor 12 begins with what seems to be a normal looking chamber, but in fact it is very much not. 12-1's first half starts with 2 Nobushis and 1 Kairagi, who I did not see regain health at any point. Because you killed other enemies, so he infuses himself and he regains an health. Not see him do that, so you can, you don't need to be careful how you kill these guys. But then these guys are followed by a Fatui Cryo Fatass and a Fatui Pyro Gunman. Usually, the main problem with these guys is that they have not been updated to interact with elements like new enemies do. By that I mean that new enemies' shields can be damaged finely with many elements and not just with a specific counter. Not these assholes though, as they are release enemies and they do not behave like that. It's specifically Pyro for the Cryo Fatass and a Hydro for the Pyro Gunman. But today's main problem is that these guys are the local legend versions, also without an HP bar for some reason. Like, I thought we had this problem done, it was solved, that if it was a local legend, it would have an HP bar on the top. All of the previous Abysses had this. Why the fuck do these guys don't do it? And of course you're going to get caught by surprise if you don't know this. So be very fucking careful. These are the local legend versions, so if you kill the Pyro Fatui, the Cryo Fatass gets a huge attack boost, and if you kill the Cryo Fatass, he spawns a giant cryo field that one-shots you. And I'm not going overboard for that. It's a one-shot cryo field that's giant and it lasts for a bit. So you will need Hydro and Pyro for the first problem, and for the second one, you pray. The attack boost isn't that much of a problem, especially if you bring Pyro and the guy gets stunned forever, but being cautious to kill the Cryo Fatass and run away as fast as possible is not the easiest thing in the middle of a rotation. And yeah, they don't have any actually challenging mechanics, they just have unfixed bullshit and intentionally designed bullshit. Kill the Cryo Fatass last if possible so that the field doesn't spawn. That's the main tip that I can give you. He'll be very annoying if you don't hit him with Pyro to stun him, where he'll start the fucking spraying for forever. Right. But make sure to kill him last if possible, because then the field doesn't spawn and you don't get killed. But it's not because they have challenging mechanics, they have bullshit. And your reward for defeating them is an extremely simple second half. 3 waves, 1 enemy each. Simple enemies here. There's a Flying Ruin Drake, an Eremite Spirit Spawner, and a Hydro Phantasm. That's about it. Flying Ruin Drake is pretty fine. The Eremite Spirit Spawner, because there's 1 and it's 12-1, she doesn't have a lot of health. The Spirit doesn't have a lot of health. There's no crazy attack spam, because there's 2 of them and now there's 4 enemies. Right. And then the Hydro Phantasm, as long as you don't have Hydro as your main DPS, or the Hydro aura that it has does not ruin any reactions on something, because it can easily ruin quicken teams if you bring Hydro and you don't rely on Hyper Bloom damage a bit, right? It shouldn't be a problem. It's fine. But be careful of those fuckers in the first half. 12-2 continues a trend, though, from the previous Abyss, in both of its halves. That is, regular enemies followed by a boss. And we've got, on the first half, some mushrooms, followed by the Dendro Chicken, the Terror Shroom, and on the second half, an Abyss Knight, the Anemo variant, followed by Magu Kinki. Okay, I did voice my concerns last video about this style of chamber, but since both halves contain simple enemies as the start, and very simple bosses, this chamber is perfectly fine. You most likely have Pyro and Hydro on the first half because of 12-1, so the chicken should not start running around because you hit it with Electro. Most of the time it just stands in a spot if you hit it with Pyro. Maybe does a little bit of an explosion, but usually it just shakes off, and that's about it. No running around because of Electro, so you're good. And yes, Mago Kinky will waste time, but again, the simplicity of this entire chamber should not make the wasted time a problem. Just hope he doesn't constantly teleport in his second phase. And finally, 12-3 contains 2 bosses without any enemies. Which kind of shows you that they kind of have something in their minds, that they will not introduce those previous chambers in 12-3, and they will keep them to lower chambers so that the enemies and bosses don't have that much health. Well, let's hope that that's the truth. But for 12-3, the first half is the giant fat fucking Mountain King. This guy is very easy, pretty similar in behavior to the Dendro Chicken, but there are some big tips here. Number 1, he will instantly start a fight by spitting out fruits, and he will light the floor on fire. I've not necessarily noticed this dealing damage. I'm pretty sure it does deal damage, but most importantly, it affects you with Pyro. So if you need to swirl any element that isn't Pyro with somebody like Kazuha, be careful of that. And number 2, and the very big tip, is use Pyro on the fruits if you're having trouble. Because honestly, I tried without Pyro, and he got destroyed by pure damage. Yes, I had problems with 12-1, but, because it's 12-1, you can deal with 12-1 with a team, and then just, pain it through, go through the pain for the other chambers. So I tried without Pyro and Hydro, and the Fat King got destroyed by pure damage. But the time saving you get by damaging him with the fruits is unmatchable to any team comp suggestion that I can give you. He does do a spin, which is very annoying, but the time you save with the fruits clears the 3 seconds that the spin attack lasts. And the second half is PMA. There's nothing on it, that really helps, and again, because you should have a ton of time because of the first half, this is one of the easiest 12-3s to clear. And that's floor 12, and the Abyss. Apart from the BS in 12-1, this is a very easy Abyss, and very possibly one of the last easy ones we will see. As I told you at the beginning of the video with what I think about the Abyss and its future, I hope that this isn't the last easy Abyss we see, but my hopes are pretty low. And let's move to the Imaginarium Theater. So they brought in 2 more floors for it, and it is horrendous because you need more element-specific characters to even play these 2 floors. And this cycle was dreadful. Pyro, Hydro, and Dendro. What the fuck is this? Ah yes, Hydro, where we got a total of 3 4-star units where 2 are borderline useless, because Candace is useless, Barbara is just a healer, and there's just godlike Xingqiu. And then how many Hydro 5-stars are not DPSs? And you've also pulled for them. And then Pyro characters are an even worse situation because they are 90% DPSs. And the supports range from actual Pyro Archon to Daisha. And that starting cast, oh boy, have you seen that starting cast? Aside from Daisha and Candace in there, where they decided to fill those spots with useless characters, Xianling, which I thought would be super nice to have, because I don't have her build, does not use a 4-piece artifact set. She uses 2 pieces Noblesse and 3 pieces Crimson Witch. Are you fucking kidding me? They did not give her a 4-piece Crimson Witch. Like, you have 2 options. Give her the catch and give her Emblem of Severed Fate, or give her Dragon's Bane, which they did, and give her a 4-piece Crimson Witch. Like, they're not necessarily amazing builds, but they are good builds compared to this bullshit. I picked Xianling just because I saw the 3 Crimson Witch pieces out of the corner of my eye. So I thought, okay, we got a decent Xianling here if I need her for any of the floors. And then I saw the build, and then afterwards I saw the build, and I'm like, oh, that's why she's useless. Like, what the fuck? Genuinely, they did not give her a 4-piece Crimson Witch. I am going nuts. And then there's Emily, where they built her for DPS and they did not give her Deepwood. What? Excuse me? They gave her Deathmatch, fucking Deathmatch, and the Burning set that gives her extra damage. Why the flying fuck would you build her with that? And not Deepwood for a general support? Because, I don't know, you've got Hydro, Pyro, and Dendro, so aside from Burning, which would not use Deepwood, you've got Burgeon, which needs Deepwood. And it's like, why is not a melee a good AoE Dendro applier using Deepwood? Of course, because DPS. Oh my god, Burning, it's not even a Burning DPS. It's the shitty Burning set that gives you just general damage. Like, the fuck? And if that wasn't enough, with the characters, one of the bosses included in these floors is the Vishkap local legend from the Sea of Bygone Eras, which, if you did not know, has an energy draining aura around it with a Hydro shield, where if you don't have any energy, it damages you, like corrosion, and it damages you a lot. So within all the stupid layers of RNG in this mode, they put this thing in. This whole cycle sucked unfathomably. I did not also notice any of the reaction buffs that I was given, and I did pick them. Like, I don't know, just did not pay attention to them, or did not notice them because they were not significant. And what the fuck are these element choices? Play Vaporize for 2 rounds or 4 if you have Xingqiu and Yelan, which is not necessarily a good idea if you have one or the other. Play Burgeon for 2 rounds because Toma is the only good Burgeon character if you build him with EM, or any Pyro character with EM, where then Burgeon, because if you don't, Burgeon is not a lot of damage. And again, if you build Toma with EM, his shield is paper thin in every other team composition, so he's useless. And also from the given characters, only Yao Yao has Deepwood. And then what? If you bring any other Dendro characters of your own, which, hint, all of them are not made for burning teams, you ain't dealing damage because they depend on Quicken to deal damage, and I think only Raiden exists for any Electro application. So this cycle of Imaginarium Theater, much like the other ones, sucked unimaginably. I have seen some good comments about it, that the experience wasn't that horrendous, but the issues I mentioned to you constantly appeared in those comments and discussions around them. It fucking sucked. And that's the Abyss and Imaginarium Theater for 5.0 or September of 2024. The future is not looking bright, but let's let 5.1 come in and then we will judge. As for the Imaginarium Theater, I'm starting to highly doubt that it will ever become a good mode. That's it. Thank you for watching. Sorry for the negativity against the Imaginarium Theater, but you know very well that this mode is not it. Just give me Hollow Zero. Just give me a Hollow Zero mode, which is basically Labyrinth Warriors. Like, why the fuck don't we just have Labyrinth Warriors and we had to do this whole RNG garbage with limited elements in it? It's so dumb. So, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. And I'll see you in the next video, which should be the general review for 5.0 or Kinnich's review. Yes, I got Kinnich because I had a 100% guarantee waiting for fucking Risley. And I guess we should talk about him as our first Natlan character. So, look forward to that. Sub to the channel to help it out. Like the video as well. I don't know if I mentioned that. And I'll see you again in the next video. Goodbye.